Hello there, CyHawkThoughts fans. Steve Myers with Chuck Utech once again. It is Bowl Extravaganza.
Yeah!
So once again, this year, you guys will all be involved trying to knock Chuck and I off getting the better picks for the bowls we have decided to give you.
Do you want free stuff?
I want free stuff.
I want free stuff. Well, you can get free stuff. You gotta beat us. That's the key. Last year, a lot of people beat me. No one beat Steve in the picks. This year, I'm gonna redeem myself. Steve's probably just gonna pick winners. That's what he does.
I was like 24 and 5?
It was pretty sad.
Yeah, it was. I'm sorry, everybody.
He smoked. He smoked all last year, if you paid attention in season 1. First off, though, because we're going to go over all sorts of rules, regulations. Actually, not so much. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But let's talk hoops.
I think so. And there's no better place to start than, folks, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Absolutely playing well right now. Had some big wins over in-state rivals. They are the mythological state champs. Obviously didn't play Drake, but I don't think that would be an issue. Granted, anything could happen, but we're giving it to them. Iowa State fan giving it to Iowa this year.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yes, and it's also probably pretty cool for all you Hawk fans out there to see that a basketball team is winning games that perhaps going into this season didn't think were winnable.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about these Hawkeyes and what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I would be glad to. 9-2. First off, hats off to the ladies. Iowa women also beat Iowa State women. I didn't see that one coming. Iowa has pulled ahead. I didn't see that one coming in the CyHawk Challenge this year, which they were down terribly at one point, like 9-2 point-wise. There's still a few huge events coming up. Tennis, I think gymnastics.
Gymnastics are one.
Yes.
Swimming and diving over.
Yeah, something like that. Not baseball. But maybe softball, I think, is on there.
Perhaps, yeah.
So, still should be fun. Good job by the women's team. Yeah, definitely didn't see that coming, but
stingy defense by the women. I mean, they always have a stingy defense there in Iowa.
But Bluters gals are working hard. Men's team, I had these games both as losses, admittedly, in the season, and I was hoping they'd be able to get one of the two because they had lost to Virginia Tech. I thought Iowa could have won that game, probably. Maybe if it wasn't on the road, maybe if it was at home or a neutral site, they would have. They weren't prepared. That game, though, kind of like other games we've seen, like with Iowa football, we've talked about it before. Maybe by playing that game, being in a tough environment, the offense, for lack of a better term, sucked against Virginia Tech. Maybe it helped them. It helped them get over them because in both the Iowa State and the UNI game, they had to withstand runs. Iowa State, they came hard in the end of the first half, took the lead at halftime. I myself was like, okay, hey, I'm cool with that. That was good, and if we can scratch out a win or a close game, great. But they look good, and here comes Iowa State. And Iowa came out hard in the second half. They held themselves.
Held it at that time.
Played good defense, and good job out of those guys. UNI, boy, I'll tell you, that first half, they just rode some hot shooting, which haven't been able to say that a lot about Iowa this year, especially on a neutral court. They took it to them in the first half, had to withstand some runs in the second half, but it is the play of the freshmen. They're growing. By the end of the year, they won't be freshmen anymore. I still don't know if this translates into an NCAA tournament. I'm not that guy that's going to get on that bandwagon. But you do the math, it's getting close already when you start thinking if they can win these next two games against South Carolina State, and forget who is after that, but go 11-2, and then if they just go 10-10 in conference in the tournament, you're talking 21-12, and with the Big Ten schedule, that's going to get you in the tournament.
It's a heavy bubble.
Yeah, that's a 10 seed.
Yeah.
And there you go. And they can go 9-9 regular season with their schedule. They only play Ohio State once, Illinois once. I think they only play Indiana once. Yeah. Although they play them first, and who knows what happens in that game. They're riding a lot of momentum for December 31st.
Yeah. No, I just to go a little on that Iowa State game, I put a post out there at halftime, Iowa State up 36-35, but I don't know how. And it's true, Iowa dominated all facets of the game up till halftime, besides maybe the last 2 minutes. And even in those 2 minutes, I don't know that there was a bunch of it's not like Iowa State dominated one area. We did what we do. We had fast break points. We hit some threes, forced maybe a turnover. But you don't win a game in 2 minutes, folks. It takes an entire game, or at least close to an entire game. And outside of those 2 minutes, what does that make? 38 minutes?
Yeah.
Iowa won the game. 38 minutes of Iowa State. That shows you how deadly they can be. That you can only win 2 minutes of that game, and go on a 13-0 run in that 2 minutes, and then stay with a team like Iowa. But that's not going to get it done. A loss is a loss, just like a win is a win, And so to sit there and say we didn't play well and we came up close anyway, you might be able to sit there and say that. But I want to be on the other side. I want to be on Iowa's side. We dominated the game. We did everything we needed to do to win. We out-hustled them. We out-rebounded them. We're the only team to out-rebound Iowa State so far this year. That's the side I want to be on. I don't want to be on the moral victory side, and that's all I have to stand on right now. And it's not fun.
And I'll tell you, in sports today, it is tough to make a rally 10 points or more, or even if we go into football, like the New England Patriots game.
Yeah.
They're down 28. They come back as soon, and it's just human nature. They came back. They took a deep breath. Next thing you know, San Francisco is running the kickback to the 40-yard line, scoring a play later.
Michael Crabtree getting loose.
And control the game. Football, same thing. Iowa State. I was at the Iowa Energy game at the time. I was watching a little bit of the game at the bar. Iowa was up 10. By the time I had my drink, Iowa was up 5. By the time I got back to my seat, I saw Steve's post, and they were down 1. And there you go.
It was a crazy turn of events.
Yeah.
But you got to keep that momentum, and we definitely didn't.
Yeah. And then, halftime hits, and that probably was the worst thing that could have happened to Iowa State. It was like a breaking timeout, a natural timeout, and they lost some momentum. Iowa came out, had time to regroup, take a deep breath, played some defense. Next time I checked, they were up 8.
Yep. No, Iowa played very well. Kudos to, and I told you that personally. I was very impressed by the hustle that the Hawks showed. It was impressive. I'm not gonna lie. I think
I haven't had that for a few years.
Yeah.
There were some moments last year, even the year before. Once in a while, I'm not going to disparage the kids in the Lick Lighter era, but the intensity was at a level that hadn't been seen by Hawk fans for a long time.
And the Hawks were intense that game. It seems like every loose ball, you had 2 or 3 on the ground. We had one that might be getting to his knees. And you can have all the talent in the world on your team. You can have all the speed, all the athleticism. You can have all that type of stuff. But if you're not going to give 100% of that kind of talent and speed and athleticism you have, it ain't going to do you any good.
Those 50-50s are key.
They are.
In-state games like that.
If we gave 100% like one of the Iowa guys, do we get there sooner? Well, we might have some faster guys. But our 75% ain't going to beat their 100. So, kudos. Great win for Iowa.
Thank you. They parlayed it. I was a little nervous. They had 8 days off. Then they went to Wells Fargo Arena, and on the neutral court, they beat UNI. Rode, as we were talking about earlier, rode some hot shooting, came out, maintained at the end, a little bit of a lull, kind of like a Wisconsin game feel from last year. Got a little dicey, and they got down to about 5 points. Not a lot of time left. Good job out of UNI. They extended the last 3 minutes of that game for probably 40 minutes, it felt like. It just felt like ages. Seasons were changing. I was shaving, and then oh man, I'm gonna have to shave again. It took forever, but hey, that was good strategy.
That's what the game's about.
It was good work for Iowa, because they're gonna see a lot of that in the Big Ten. You gotta make free throws.
They're gonna see both sides. They'll probably end up having to sit there and against a good team say, "What did you and I do? We need to do that."
Yeah.
So, Iowa State, we got past Drake.
That was a good game.
Yeah, Drake has some players on it this year.
They're scrappy.
They are. They're like a little Iowa team. That's where I would They hustle. They get things done. Seth Van Diest, I think he's going to be a pretty good player.
Really returning well from injury.
Exactly. He might be, what do they call that? Return from injury player of the year in the NBC or whatever that, if they have that.
Comeback player. Definitely comeback player.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sounds a lot better than returning to injury.
I like it. Was that an RFI?
Yeah. Anyway,
RFIP.
No, Drake's gonna pose some problems for some people this year in the Missouri Valley. But we're glad to get out there with a victory. Hopefully we can do some damage before we get Texas and Hilton for first Big 12 game.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and granted we're going to have to go look at the tape a year from now as I say this now, but I was thinking about this as those games were going on. I'll tell you what my opinion is and I'll ask what your opinion is. I think Iowa and Iowa State have a chance of winning that game, their game each year on that Saturday, every year. And I'll tell you why. One, it's one game. It is kind of like a tournament, but I think they put some weight into it because it's the one game.
Yeah.
And they're, as I watched Iowa play, and then the Iowa State and Drake
they'll control the crowd. Yeah,
they control that atmosphere, and it did not feel like a fair atmosphere, in my opinion. And that's just me. And Drake, that's like a home game for them. I mean, they're traveling a mile away, and Iowa State's fairly close, yes, but you and Iowa have a little bit of a ways to go. But yes, are there more Iowa State fans in the state? Are there more Iowa fans in the state than Drake UNI? Of course. However, it felt like a tournament atmosphere where, the 13 and the 16 seed had little crowds, and the big team had the big crowd, and it just.
No, I
think
agree.
Iowa State take it.
I agree. It's gonna. We're not playing on their home court. We're not playing on a court that they shoot on every single day. So it's kind of neutral for each team. Iowa State and Iowa are going to control the crowds now, which is exactly what Iowa and Iowa State wanted to do. They wanted to have the crowds each and every game, and they didn't want that chance to lose playing at home and home. And like I said, I'm gonna go back to when we had JT and here, and I don't like it. But it is what it is, so I'm going to have to do what I can to appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to have to live with it. It's not going away.
No, so, well, good stuff. We'll obviously have a lot more basketball stuff going on throughout the season.